This is a big one. So I am now joined by Rodrigo Lopez, 11-year MLB veteran, 5 years in the Orioles. Rodrigo, thank you so much for taking the time and hopping on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, that was a funny connection, what we did over the social media. And it's just fine, interesting. And well, I think it's a good time to connect with all the fans back in Baltimore.
Absolutely. So you're right. I wanted to kind of start with how this all came to be. I am a ginormous Orioles fan. I live in Maryland. And right around the time you first came to Baltimore was when I first started watching them. So I fell in love, and then you were opening day starter for so many years there. And I had this weird memory pop into the back of my brain where I just remembered they used to show you on camera, like chewing around the edges of like the Gatorade cups in the dugout. And like, I have no idea what made me think of this, but you're right. I tweeted it at you. You were nice enough to respond, but let's kind of start with that. Like, what was kind of like the origin of that? Like, how did you start chewing on them? And did you ever think somebody would out of the blue mention it 15 years later?
No, for sure. I mean, I almost forgot about it. Well, the origin of this, it was just like trying to calm my nerves, and trying to stay relaxed. So when I was pitching, yeah, I was very nervous guy and very anxious. So during the games and pitch, I used to chew bubble gum. So, but I got two pieces of bubble gum every time I step in between lines. So my routine was getting out of the inning, come back to the dugout, throw away the gum that I have in my mouth, and got water. So those cups that have wax, the Gatorade cups that you mentioned, some of them got wax. Eventually, they get rid of them. But so I sip the water, I wet my lips, and to calm my nerves, start to shoot the wax cups. That's probably the one images that you have in mind. So that's how it started. So one, I need to go back and pitch. So I got my new bazookas, piece of gums, put two on them, and I was ready. And that was that routine. So it was funny that the camera guy and people on the broadcast mentioned it.
Yeah, that you're right, because I can clearly remember just like a camera. You're right. They'd zoom in on you in the dugout, kind of chewing around the edges of them. You mentioned that you said you were kind of like a nervous pitcher. Like, did you have any other methods to kind of help control your nervousness and anxiety during the game?
No, really, that was very much that was the only thing that I found out kind of helped me, with the time and all the stuff. Like, you just become a habit. The nerves, they never got away, so I learned how to handle it, and that was it. So the kind of remember the flavor, the feeling of the wax. Like, you probably remember the ones that I tear up. That was the foam cup.
Mhm.
Actually, the wax ones, I just rip up a piece of it and chew it. And I think the foam cups, that was another story that I can share with you. But yeah, that was the part of the chewing the wax cups.
That's so funny. Yeah. So were nerves something that you had to combat throughout your entire career, or as you pitched later and later, you just kind of found that they went away?
Yeah, I guess there's something natural in me. Probably I never mentioned this, so to probably will be the first time I do it in public. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I suffered epilepsy, and my doctor back in Mexico, I grew up in Mexico City. He always trying to tell me, to advise me that don't worry too much, because I was a little kid that worried about my grades, worried about be a good kid, and I guess that make my nerves, kind of fire up. And I don't know if that was a fact, but the neurologist say, try not to be nervous, try to sleep well during night. But it's something that I couldn't help. So, and that was just natural in me. Every time that I had to pitch, I was so anxious and nervous. And at one point, I was like, man, hopefully this thing goes away and I will get used to it. And, I don't know how many starts I got in the big leagues, close to 200, plus the games that I have in winter league and minor leagues, and always were the same. So I kind of learned to how to deal with it. And answering your question, no, I never was able to get rid of that.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. I had never heard that story. So thank you, obviously, for sharing that little tidbit about your life and your career there. And your career is so fascinating because I don't think a lot of people kind of know like your backstory. So your journey to the major leagues, it started in Mexico, correct? And that was how you got from Mexico to Major League Baseball.
Correct. Yeah. I started in Mexico back in '93, I believe, starting to play in the minor leagues. Then I was signed by the San Diego Padres in '94, I think. And my minor league career pretty much was with the San Diego Padres until 2002 when the Orioles signed me out of the winter ball and they gave me the chance to make a team during the spring training of 2002.
So you're right. I was looking at you. You spent a decent amount of time in the minors. I think it was like 5 or 6 seasons there. That's kind of a long time, or maybe in this year, like this era of baseball standards, that's a long time because guys get to the big leagues so much more quickly. But as you were taking those 5, 6 years to try to get to the big leagues, did any doubts creep in, or did you always know that you're on the right path to becoming a major league player?
Yeah, no, there was a lot of doubts. And actually, back in 2001, I was hurt. I got hurt during spring training. 1998 and 1999, I was on the roster. So also in 2000. So 2001, they removed me from the roster. I was not invited into the big league camp. I got hurt. So I spent, I believe, the first 3 months of the season on the DL here. Well, I live in Phoenix, but back then I was in Peoria, Arizona, where the Padres got their headquarters of spring training. Yeah, during those 3 months, I was like doubting, just stop playing, stop trying. But also being a Mexican, I had the option to go back and play during in Mexico League and during summer to play in one of those teams. So I feel at that time that the team that didn't interested in my service anymore, and I was this close, Justin, of just go back to Mexico. And I'll tell you why I didn't go back to Mexico. In Mexico, they got the deadline, I think also in July, to make the trade. So I was part, or I belong in Mexico to a team that I didn't want to play to. So I called the other team that I want to play for, and I asked him because, you know, the owner of the team that I want to play, he was the same owner that I played for him in winter ball. So we got a great relationship. They pay me really good money when I was there. So I call him and I ask him, hey, I want to go back to Mexico, but I don't want to go to the team that I belong to. Please do as much as you can to trade me over there. So they were back and forward, back and forward. And at the end, the team that had my rights, he said, no trade. I said, well, then I'm not going back. I don't go back to Mexico. I stay in Lake Elsinore when I was doing my rehab, and I didn't go back to. And that was a big moment for me because otherwise, if I would be playing in Mexico during the 2001 season, I wouldn't be able to sign as a free agent with the Orioles. So that was a big part of my life because playing for the Orioles changed my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you had so much success there, especially early on in 2002. But when you were so you signed as a free agent with the Orioles. So what did you like about the organization that made you want to travel across the country and play on the East Coast?
Honestly, Justin, the only thing that I like is like they offered me a job. That was the only thing because I was most of the time hurt during my AAA season. After Lake Elsinore, I went to Portland, Oregon. I didn't pitch as a starter until the last month, I believe. So I feel like I was out of the minor league system, out of the American baseball. I was like, please, just give me a chance. I was telling my agent. That time when I spent that much time in the minor leagues, I made me think a lot. I stopped thinking I was as a prospect, as a future potential player in the big leagues. To say, all right, this is it. either you make it or that's it, because there's no way, there's not any more to go. And that could be my career. So I went to play winter ball. I started playing. Actually, I report the first day of training for winter, and that totally changed my mentality. There was an ESPN magazine. I don't know if you remember those magazines that were like the format was different.
Mhm.
There was a ESPN magazine where they wrote a big article about me, about Raul Ibanez, some other players. But I mentioned on that article that I changed the perspective that I see the game. I was more like take everything as a challenge, every pitch, every game, little things, and that changed my mentality. Went to play winter ball. I start off like, well, my record was 10-1, and that's when the Orioles look at me. I believe the scouts from the Orioles that were seeing me from the year past, say they probably like something that I saw in my skills, but they offered me the job. And honestly, I didn't know much about. Well, of course, I know everything about the Orioles, everything about that division, but I didn't. I didn't took my option like, okay, the Orioles got these players and probably got a chance to make it to the big leagues, or have another option where the organization probably don't have many prospects. No, I was like, probably was the only team that offered me a job, and they say I'll sign. I want to stay in the American baseball. I want to stay in the eyes of the scouts in the America. So, and I signed right away. Sid Tripp, that was a general manager, and he got a lot of faith in me.
That's so funny that you mentioned that you realized at that point that you weren't a prospect anymore. I think you were in your mid-20s at that point when the Orioles had you. But 2002, I mean, you finished second in the AL Rookie of the Year. Everything was clicking. I think you led the team in every pitching category. Like, what made you have so much success that year, and in the years that would follow?
So, as far as my pitches, sinker to slider, I was sinker to slider when I come up. I didn't have. I was not afraid of anything. And as I say, my mentality, my perspective was take everything as a challenge. Playing winter ball that year, that was my big year. Again, I was 10-1 and playing for Team Tomateros, which means the tomato growers. Then in playoff, I won my 5 starts, and I won the Caribbean World Series. That's a big story on me. Everybody in Mexico know that Caribbean World Series that I won through a shutout, complete game in the last game. So we won the championship. And imagine my self-esteem and my confidence level was like up here. So I get to Baltimore knowing that probably will be my last chance to play in the big leagues. And I was the same mentality. I was attacking the batters, throw them a lot inside. My sinker was working pretty good, and my slider. And one of my big part of my success that I have a Mexican catcher, Geronimo Gil. So I was able to shake him whenever I want. I was able to communicate. I didn't speak that much English like I do now, but I understand a lot, and I was able to communicate. But having somebody to speak the same language and be on the same page, I think that helps a lot.
That's such a great point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I did want to ask about 2003 opening day. This was the first of 3 opening day starts that you would do for the Orioles. This is, of course, the snow game against the Indians. What do you remember about that game? Like when it started, and like when did you see the flakes starting to come down?
Well, I remember that fly ball of Alex Burns that he hit the stands, came back into right field, and they call a fair ball. That cost me a run. And what I remember, it was my first opening day. I was so excited. I know the weather the day before we have practice, so it was a little bit snowing. So I went out there and jogged to. In my mind, I was like, okay, let my body acclimatize and go out there and run. And I was like pretty young and strong, and so the opening day, I remember getting up, so excited and anxious, of course, nervous. but it was a beautiful day. That was sunny day. Started, everything perfect. Remember at the introductions with the red carpet. I was like, I love that, the red carpet from center field. It was good. So here comes the snow. I think it was I think it was 2 outs. I don't remember, but I remember having a man on first and having him and 2 strikes. Started to see the snowflakes coming down, and I barely see the fingers of Geronimo. So like, all right, if I barely see the fingers, the snowflakes being white, the ball being white, I believe this guy can see the ball. So I like take advantage of finishing him before the umpire called the game or suspend the game. So I make the pitch, really bad pitch, a slider, because I saw that video over and over. I don't know how he hit the ball, but hit the stands. I honestly never see the ball in the air, and I think nobody saw it. But if you ever pitch or you ever be in the game, when the ball, when the bat hit the ball, pretty much the trajectory of the ball. So I know he hit it back with the spin, and being righty, the ball will have the effect to go away from the fair ball territory. And I knew like he hit the stands or the rail. I don't know what it hit. Came back. Jay Gibbons didn't even see the ball until it was rolling toward him. So he went out there and got the ball. And the umpire there saying, he like, fair ball. It's like, what? Everyone was confused. Even the runners, even the batter. But at the end, that's how there was no replay back then. So that's probably the thing that I remember the most. No decision. I don't know if it was a quality start, but CC Sabathia was it was the other starting pitcher. So good memories back then.
Yeah, that's so funny that you mentioned that a lot of the people just thought that like I went back and was watching a bunch of the interviews, and I even watched the game film itself. Like, don't you think that like the umpire would have like been able to hear the ball clank off the stands? And I think you even said during an interview that the on deck batter was like, yeah, that's a foul ball. Like how much do you remember about like the chaos and just like all the uncertainty? And you're right, we probably wish we had replayed during that.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I mean, I don't think the umpire will be able to hear that, because if you pound a ball against concrete, the sound is absorbed. I don't think, and on top of that, the people cheering, the noise of the game, and don't have any idea where the ball is. I think you are somewhere else and you don't know what's happening behind you. So I think he was not able to hear just the trajectory of the ball coming back. Is going the ball is rolling, turns right center. So there's no way the ball hitting of a right-handed batter had that trajectory. So it had to hit something else before turns to that direction. So and the guy behind it, just like you mentioned, it was Karim Garcia. I don't know if you remember Karim Garcia. Who's Karim Garcia? He is fighting the guys over in Boston on one of the playoff, whatever. So Karim Garcia was a big. We are good friends. Still with good friends. He pretty much we grew up in playing baseball in Mexico, in professional baseball. So either after the game or some other time, but I believe we went out after the game, and he got another angle. He was on the end on the circle. He got the straight line to the right field, and he was like, "Yeah, that was foul ball." So and that was it. And I think I believe in one of my tweets I respond CC Sabathia and I think I'm not sure, so I don't want to say, but I believe that he also remembered that play as being a foul ball.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to go back and find that. Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the most memorable games in the history of Camden Yards. In terms of games that you pitched, like where does that rank in terms of the most memorable?
Not probably in the top 3 or 4, not even the top 5. Yeah, my first opening day, my first son Rodrigo was just born. He was born in 2003. March 7, 2003. He was like the first time actually be in the stadium. I don't think he was watching the game, but be in the stadium when his dad was pitching. And for first time, I didn't feel threat being sent down. Every spring training, I just got the, oh, they're gonna cut me off on the first cut. And for first time, got a great season coming off the 15-9 record on 2002, be the runner-up on the Rookie of the Year. So I get to spring training, 2000 spring training, I get like this. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna get sent down. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, those mid 2000s Orioles were like my favorite. That time in Orioles history, obviously, it's when I first started watching them. So many great players, so many characters. When you look back at your time at those 5 years you spent in Baltimore, like you mentioned Geronimo Gil, but were there a few of your other like teammates you were close with? And do you have any other favorite memories from your time in Baltimore?
Well, my best years in the big leagues, in the majors, it was with the Orioles, and definitely got a lot of memories. Then after Geronimo Gil, I became a good friend of Javi Lopez, that the guy that I admired when he was with the Braves, because all the rotation that he did with, playing with Miguel Tejada, with Rafael Palmeiro, with Sammy Sosa, and that was a lot of good memories. It's when the Cal Ripken World Series start to play in Aberdeen. So he invited me every year to share time with the Mexican team. And for me, because after that, Cal put me aside and he walked with me on the back of the fields and talked to me like, man, I couldn't believe it. I don't know what to say. Like I was with Cal Ripken, just me and him, nobody else was bothering us. I mean, and he would just tell me about the team, his thoughts and everything. And I was like, man, this is great. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but being 2001 on the DL, I feel like, my career was ending. Being the next year, well, the 2 years after that with Cal Ripken, that was like, for me, playing in that division, playing with the Orioles, it was my picture of being a kid. So that's how I picture the baseball in America was, because I got a chance to play in Fenway Park on the old Yankee Stadium and all that. That was like, this is great. And there are many memories that I have. The 3,000 hit of Rafael Palmeiro. I was pitched, so that part where you mentioned when I lost the 18 games. The first game, I think the first or second game that I won, or the first game that I won, that's when Rafi Palmeiro hit his 3,000 hit. It was my best outing over there, but I remember Rafi get the hit in Seattle and stop the game for a bit. That was a good memory. In 2003, well, that year that was not a good year as far as my record. I struck out my personal record, 10 batters against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. That was a funny story. There I remember that was probably the end of the season or some. So Brooke Fordyce was the catcher. It was not Geronimo that day. So I don't know. Brooke likes to go at the pitcher mounts a lot. And I hate that. I hate the catchers trying to take the focus of the game, and they always. So here I am in the first inning. I think I walk a guy or something, and he comes Brooks, and he go back. I don't know. I give up a hit. I don't know. He came back. He tried to come back into the mound, and I went like no. Like I went like this. So we get out the inning. So we went to the dugout. He was like all fired up, and he was like, "Hey, Rodrigo, like please don't do that again." And trying to take his role as a leader. That I was somewhere else. I didn't. Like, and I get so pissed that I say, every time that he put a sign, I would shake him off. So that was I kind of took it personal. Probably that was not professional to do it, but that was in my mind. Every time he put a sign, even if I want a fastball, I'm just gonna shake him off until who goes around and call another fastball. So and here we go. And as one of my best games, probably I'm not saying I was not agree with his calls, but for me it was more like fighting against my own catcher than fighting against the Yankees, and that was a good memory. Like beat the Yankees at Yankee Stadium.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, you pitched with a little bit of an edge that game, obviously. I'm glad you brought up the Yankees and the Red Sox because I'm so curious about this. When you're on the Orioles and the Yankees and the Red Sox were just killing it in that division. Some of the scariest lineups in recent memory, they had the highest payrolls. Like, what was the team's mindset going into like New York and going into Boston? Were you guys confident, like pessimistic, or like what was kind of like the team's general vibe when you had to go play the Yankees and the Red Sox?
Well, for me, it was exciting. Nervous again. It was always there, but there was a chance to. I feel like okay, there's nothing to lose here, right? So if I beat the Yankees, that's going to be a great goal. It's going to be a lot to talk about. Like, oh, you beat the Yankees, yeah. So I got a chance to beat the Yankees. If they beat me, that was not news, So I don't feel I had much to do, much to lose. Sorry, and it was just fun. And face him, I don't know how many times I face him every year, like 7 or 8 times, like at and Red Sox games. Like I know those guys really well, and what helped me a lot that those guys are pretty disciplined. So I know they were not make a swing if the ball was like this far away from the park, from the strike zone, and I believe I have a good command. So if the umpire was calling, if he was giving me the extra part of the plate, man, I was rolling. But and for me, it was like to me in my mind, I was like, okay, here you are in the cage where 2 lions are, and there's nobody's gonna open the cage. So either or smartly you go out there and try to kill them, like giving stabbing here, run away, stabbing here, run away until they die, or you make a mistake, they're gonna eat you, and that's it. So it's the way I feel with the Yankees. If I make a mistake in 1 inning, there was like 5 runs, game over. But I was like so focused on make my pitches, handle the lineup very well. I was not gonna pitch to, I don't know, to Hideki Matsui when I have, I don't know, Miguel Cairo in the 9th spot. I mean, probably I walk around a lot because I knew those guys were pretty disciplined, and it was just fun. It was like probably the games that demand more of you being focused. It was those games, and also going back to your question, for one of the good memories playing for the Orioles, that I had the chance to face Hall of Famers. Now they're Hall of Famers. Now they're legends. Nothing against the team, against the Yankees or the Red Sox now. But back then, that division, that was the best division in baseball. And the skills to all the teams or whatever. But I believe a lot of people agree that at that time, early in 2000, there was the best teams and the best moments of Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, Kirk Chilling, Pedro Martinez, Jason Varitek. And I was fortunate enough to pitch against them. That's how I remember. Now, I don't know if you know, but I'm now do the broadcast for the Diamondbacks in Spanish. Yeah. And now seeing the rosters and now seeing what happened over there, like, man, how lucky I was that I had a chance to pitch against those guys for so many years and so many games.
I love that. You're right, because you're right. Those early 2000s Yankees and Red Sox, like had the big, like I said, the biggest payrolls, the scariest lineups, the Jeters, the Mannies, the Big Poppies. Like, I love the analogy you use. It's like going up against like a lion, because that's right. Because it just felt like every time that the Orioles, the smaller market team, they didn't have the flashy names. It just felt like, that we were, walking into that series knowing that we're going to lose 2 out of 3. Did the managers and coaches, did they offer anything differently? Or did they, give you any additional words of wisdom when you would face those teams? Or did anything change mentality wise when you would go into the Bronx or Fenway?
No. We all trying to be in the same page professionally against any team. We never talked like, oh, he's going to face it. There were never conversations like, oh, we got to face the Yankees twice, or, we got to face Yankees and Boston, but no, there was like everybody wants to beat the Yankees, and I believe most of those guys feel the same way that I did. Like, all right, this is another game. We trying to win every game. We trying to put numbers for us to make our living, and that was a good chance. I guess probably the attraction of play the Yankees, that was the city. I mean, New York City, they got the best restaurants, the best clubs, the stage. Same thing in Boston. That was probably the only thing that changed. But every game, every time, you just feel like the opportunity to face the Yankees and spend a lot of money on tickets, because that's when everybody calls you for tickets.
When you look back at all the great players and all the great lineups that you faced, do you remember having the most success against one individual player? Like, did you have a guy like one of the guys, like you said, that's going to be potentially a Hall of Famer? Did you have a guy that you look back and you say, you know what, I owned Big Papi, I owned A-Rod? Anybody like that come to mind?
Not really. No, against the Yankees. I got, and now that I look a lot of the stats and everything, but Bernie Williams, I think he hit one hit of me, and that was one of his last at bats against me, because his first 25 at bats he couldn't get a hit off of me. But I never realized it until after, because behind Bernie Williams, it was, I don't know, it was Jorge Posada, it was Jason Giambi. So I just don't remember that part. But the guy that I feel that in my mind that I had a chance to let's say like kind of own it was Manny Ramirez, and I see his numbers, and he hit I think over 300 of me. But I remember I remember pitching pretty much the same sequence or the same plan against him, and he never made the adjustment. And I was like, I don't know, like, because I was trying to stay away, okay? Away. Once I get into a strike, I either throw a front door slider or a cutter. So he knew I was going to finish him inside. And when I had like his second or third bat of the game, it was like, okay, here I go. Throw the slider, either he took it or he swung and missed. Being Manny Ramirez, and I was like, oh my God, like, again, like, can't believe it, he's missing it. But Manny was like so disciplined that he always go for one pitch and he will miss. Of course, I give all home runs of him, but he always stick with his plan. I always stick with my plan, and most of my time, on a key moment, on the run scoring position situation, I was more time success. So even when I moved to the National League with the Diamondbacks, I pitched the same way in the same results, and he just always laughed. So probably he knew that I couldn't hit that pitch inside, but I feel like I own him on a big moment when I face him.
That's so funny. So I wanted to talk about something that happened recently with the Orioles. They made the decision to move their left field fence back. They're going to move it back like 26 feet. They're going to make the wall out there a little bit higher, all to try to cut down on the home runs. So this is interesting because you spent a large majority of your career pitching at Camden Yards. When you heard that they're going to be altering the dimensions, like, what was your reaction?
What's the same? I always trying to pitch the same way and every stadium, because I think there was so many things in my mind to think of, that if I think about dimensions, or the ball is flying, or it is hot now, the ball is flying even more. So I think they would take something away from my game. So I was like, all right, trying to stay the same way, same pitch, the same approach, and if just let your defense play. So I played after I left Baltimore. I went to Colorado, and actually I had good numbers pitching as a home team with the Rockies. And I never thought like, oh, the ball is flying, the ball is it's been put in the humidifier and all the stuff. So like trying to stay the same way. If every bullpen or every time you pitch, what pitch is working. The slider probably is working. Probably your changeup is better that day. And I go with that, but I never feel like, okay, I'm gonna, even back then there was no more of the shifts that now they use it. But even if I had a shift, I remember with the Gary Sheffield, they always play the shift. I pitching the same way. If I feel I have to go inside, I got to go inside. If I got to, challenge down away, I would challenge down away, regardless of my defense.
That's so interesting that you never let because from the fans' perspective, all we hear is Camden Yards, the ball flies out in summer. But so you just said that, that you never really let that get to you. You just kind of stayed even keel. And, but like, obviously there is a difference pitching in Camden Yards in the summertime than most parks. Like, did you notice that, like, when the ball got, like, when we got into midsummer, did you notice that the ball would kind of leave the bat a little harder? Or, like, did you notice that change?
Yeah, that was like, that was a big, people always talk about, like, oh, you pitch for the Orioles, and, it's a batter's friendly product. And even during the cold months, that fence on the right field, it was like I remember when Leo Mazzoni joins the Orioles. He got a big philosophy of stay down away if you fall behind the count. Manny Ramirez played ping pong with that wall on the right field. So he goes like, at one point he was like, you ever sign with other team, sign with the American League and try to go Atlanta, where those jars were bigger. But those batters, they were so good at it, and regardless the dimensions. Like when I play in Boston, I never thought like the Green Monster or in Yankee Stadium, the fans also the foul ball on the right field. It was pretty close. So I didn't stay away from trying to give up a hit in that direction or trying to make him hit into the gaps. I always, go with whatever I have at the moment.
I like that. So what was your favorite park to pitch in?
I'd probably say Yankee Stadium. Well, definitely Camden Yards, but apart from the Oriole park, Yankee Stadium, and well, Boston too. It was like so intense. I don't know, and be that old stadium environment, atmosphere. That's the thing I like the fans being there and just being focused and everything surround those old stadium. I love it.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. So much history there. I have one more thing that I wanted to do some rapid fire questions to kind of wrap up. You mentioned this earlier. You're the Spanish radio analyst for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I didn't know this until pretty recently. Like, how did you get involved doing radio?
It was funny. I moved into the Phoenix area back in 2006. So 2013, I went down to play in Mexico. I was like, okay, season. I don't feel I have more motivation to in myself. So kind of started playing golf, and now I'm falling in love with golf. And we went out there and play with some of the front office guys here. And he mentioned, like, hey, Rodrigo, it's going to be an open for Spanish analysis. Like, would you be interested? And I told him, like, I didn't ask anything else. I was like, I'm in. If you offer me that job, I'm retired right now. And he started to laugh. So a few days after that, they called me for a casting. So I did one game with now my partner. And after that, a few months after that, they offered me the job. So I feel I still could play in Mexico, but at the same time, I was like, this is my opportunity to retire and have a good, easy transition for being a player to being retired. Because, well, of course, my kids were growing up, but also I believe that was going to be a hard time for my family, because all my life I've been away from home, playing 1 week, gone away, come back, and all of a sudden stay 24/7 at home. We ask for trouble, right? So I was like, this is a good part of me stay in the game, stay in the same city, because I was fortunate enough to stay in the same city, and and make that transition. So I think it works for everyone. And yeah, I didn't know much about radio. I didn't know much about talking, and I learned. I learned through those years, and I'm lucky enough to have a great group of broadcasters that they help me a lot. And my partner, has been very patient with me, and now I feel like we got a good pace. We understand each other pretty well, and I trying to become a better every time. And actually, I already call about 3 or 4 games play by play. So in the future, I would like to do more play by play games.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great part of the country, and it seems like it's such a great organization to work for. You mentioned your partner Oscar Soria, and even yourself that you want to do a little play-by-play. Do you have a signature home run call, or does he have a signature home run call that he likes to belt out?
He does. He got para la calle, like para la calle. David Peralta. He got that call, and I haven't find mine yet. They haven't find mine yet, so I'm still looking for it. But it's funny how a simple phrase, or it's hard to find it once you're behind the radio. I think you got to find a signature call where people recognize you.
You're right. You're exactly right. Let's do some fun questions to wrap up here. So you play with one of my other favorite Orioles, Daniel Cabrera, one of the hardest throwing pitchers that I've ever seen. Was his velocity even more impressive, like in person and up close?
Yeah, because he was like 6'4", 6'5", I don't know. And it was easy throwing. He was effortless pitcher. And I think his mechanic was pretty weird, but hit the ball good velocity, a great angle, and yeah, I never played catch with him because I was afraid to get hurt. But yeah, he was a hard throwing and super funny guy. Danny was like pretty funny guy. There was a good time that I spent with him with the Orioles.
Absolutely. Effortless triple digits, which is just crazy to think about. So the universal DH, it's probably coming, if not this year, very soon. You've pitched in the National League. You've obviously had to hit a little bit. Do you like hitting? Like, was that something that you look forward to?
Yeah. I was not a really good hitter. I just got like 9 hits. I don't even have like 2 double digits in my stats after 100 and plus at bats, 1 RBI. But I love to hit. And if you ask me if I was a commissioner of the Major League Baseball, I would stick with the DH in American League and let the pitcher hit in the National League.
Oh, okay. So you like that part of the game. So this is something fascinating. What was your mindset when you would face the other team's pitcher? Like, did you overthink it because you didn't want to give up a hit to the pitcher, or like, what was your mindset when the 9-hole pitcher would come up to the bat?
No, I feel like relieved that if I was in the jam, and I felt relieved because I knew either he's gonna bunt or there was nobody on, or he was leading the inning. I was like, all right, this is an out. I always feel like this is an easy out. Just stay down and away, trying to, spot your fastball. And back then, I just feel like the pitcher weren't that athletic that they are now. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm doing the broadcast, I'm seeing those kids coming out of the minor leagues. They're pretty good batters. They are taking a good approach, good swings. I don't know if there's something that they emphasize in the minor leagues to learn, but back then I was like, this is okay. And I think I keep up a hit, of course, but I even faced John Smoltz, and I was like, I know he was a good hitter, but I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm a big league pitcher. He hasn't, he's a pitcher. He's not a batter. So it's the way I just put it in my mind. Those guys were pretty good, but yeah, and I was not afraid to throw him strikes, and I was straight down away. I remember I faced one of my countrymen, Jaime Garcia, when I was with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he was like fouling off. and I don't know, it was after 6, 7 pitches, and I get upset. I was like, man, just made one pitch and just finish the at bat. So in my mind, so I usually don't go inside into the batters, and I feel like, okay, you don't want to, get yourself out. Okay, I'm gonna pitch you as a regular batter. So I went upon him in and went back, and I just finished it with the fastball in. It was like, well, sorry, countryman, but I also had to do my job, and that's the way. That's the only thing I remembered of a pitcher like trying to trying to get a base hit of me really bad. That was the only thing I remember facing Jaime Garcia.
That's really funny. You're right. It has to be so frustrating when he's just trying to get your pitch count up and just fouling every single thing back. In 2009, did your time in Philadelphia, did that overlap at all with when Pedro Martinez was there?
Yeah. Well, just for a few days. Actually, okay. I got sent down because of Pedro, and I was coming off the Tommy John. I didn't play 2008, 2009. I was signed during spring training for the Phillies. So I started off on AAA. Then I got called up, and all of a sudden they get Cliff Lee and a big trade, and Pedro Martinez. It was, in the minor leagues trying to get him ready for the season. So Cliff Lee took me out of the rotation, and Pedro Martinez took me out of the roster. And but while he was doing his preparation games, he was just pitching in the minor leagues and report to Philadelphia to practice with us and train with us. So I had a chance to learn from Big Pedro. He taught me how he throw his curveball. We play catch a lot, and and at one time he mentioned like he called me Manito. One of the people called Manito from Dominican Republic. Manito, like the only thing that I don't like is like I gonna take your spot in the roster. Like where, like if I deserve to be here, I'll be here. If not, I gonna be somewhere else. And that was the only time that I had a chance to share it with Pedro. When I was with the Orioles, we always talk during batting practice and everything, so we know each other pretty well. And it was funny because it was one of my heroes, the guy I admire. I never had a chance to pitch against him.
Wow. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I mean, all those Orioles Red Sox rivalries, you'd think you'd go head on head. So who was the funniest teammate that you remember playing with in Baltimore? I'm sure there had to be some characters that went back then.
My good friend Bruce Chen probably was one of the funniest guys. Still a good friend. We live in the same area here in Phoenix. I don't know. Yeah, Cabrera was pretty funny. Who else? Miggy Tejada also was a pretty funny guy. Oh man, Miggy couldn't see Sammy, so I don't know what was between them, but they seem like they can see each other. You can tell that you're probably thinking like those guys being from the same country, or being superstars in the majors, probably good friends, but they weren't. So every time Sammy was trying to play a joke or say a joke, like Miguel was all over him. He never let it shine, I guess, like among the players. And I just remember one day we were on our way to New York in the train, and here's Sammy didn't spend much time with us because he was hurt, and then he was rehab, and he didn't spend much time with us. But that time on the train, I think he wanted to create a bond with the Latino players over there. So he went up there and told us a joke. It was a really bad joke, by the way. And Miguel was like, Sammy, please sit down. This is not funny. Like, oh, I feel so bad, man. But yeah, like I got the good time with all those guys with Baltimore. With B-Rob, kind of we play at the same time. We grew up on the same. I call him Shorty. He hated to be called Shorty. but that good guy, Jerry Hairston Jr. There's another character. Now he's doing the TV for the Dodgers. So I'm still seeing him, and those good guys. All those guys. Sammy was also a pretty nice guy too.
Did Kevin Millar, did he like to keep things loose in the clubhouse?
Oh yeah. Oh, 1-5. Yeah, he was the guy who the way they signed it, he was just funny. Like in the clubhouse, it was. I remember Jeff Gornay's wife have this party celebration for Jeff Gornay celebrating his birthday, and she rent a party bus for us to go to Annapolis. I think he got a boat where we're gonna celebrate, and here like all the players with wives, no kids, of course, and we're all fun and having a drink and dancing, and all of a sudden Kevin was like, hey, quiet, and so everybody quiet, and he farted in front of all the wives and everything. So they're like awkward, but it was pretty funny. So but that was the kind of guy Kevin was. But that was he was trying to keep he was probably one of the best teammates that I played with, because he always cheered you up. Seems like he always played for the team. Even he was in the lineup, he always was there for you. And he told me, I think when he joined the team, I think it was one of my worst year, probably that year that when I lost 18 games. And at one point we were talking, and I think he told me that story to cheer me up, because he told me, hey, you know what? When we were in Boston, we were so afraid not afraid, but we were so concerned about facing you because we couldn't beat you. And the general manager, they make a move thinking of you. They brought John Olerud because I couldn't hit you. So they bring Olerud to help them through their season, because they know they're gonna face you. So I know probably it was true, but I knew Kevin. He was trying to cheer me up and trying to tell me how good I could be. So that was the kind of the guy Kevin was.
I love it. I love Kevin Millar on MLB Network now. I watch him every afternoon on Intentional Talk. He just seems like the nicest, funniest guy ever. I have kind of a deep cut. And I don't know if you're going to remember this, but in 2002, it's actually the 20th anniversary this year of this happening. It was when your teammate Marty Cordova fell asleep in a tanning bed and he had to go on the disabled list. First of all, do you even remember that happening? And what was kind of like the general vibe in the locker room? Were guys giving him grief about it, or did they kind of like stay away from talking to him about it?
No, they give him a grief, like a hard time. We were in Oakland, I think, when that happened. So that was after an off day. Then he showed up and to the clubhouse, and he was just seeing with the lines over here, and Mario was pretty open too. Like he was pretty funny. And back then the leaders were Scott Erickson, Jeff Conine, David Segui, Sidney Ponson. Like he get I guess. So imagine those three guys just giving a hard time. And Manny was like, I just want to sleep. And Richie, the trainer, Richie Mansell. He was I think he was part Cuban, but I think he live with the Spanish, and he always trying to speak to me in Spanish, but he American. Oh, stupido. He was, it was just funny the way he said it. And I just laughed, but that was just like a funny moment among us. But like fall asleep in a tanny bed, right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm glad you remembered it, because it happens obviously so long ago, but it was like national news at the time. Like Jim Rome on like the radio had his whole field day talking about it. That's so funny that you guys were giving it to him. I have one last question for you. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time today. I always like to end with this. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, Well, there's so many. It's hard to say one of them. I don't know. Never back then. Never read the newspaper because when you're doing well, you feel like over here, and when you're not doing well, you can feel yourself down. Uh, uh, so many take everything as a challenge. There's so many things that make me, the person and the pitcher and the player that I was. I always talk to the media. I remember Bill Steka, the PR guy from the Orioles back then. That year when I lost 18 games, I remember when I at the end of the season, some of the writers thanked me to face the media through all that year, because it's easy when you're pitching good, when you're doing good, talk to the media, but it's not easy when you're not doing well. And being a starter and pitch every 5 games, you have to face the media. And I remember one day in Washington, we still, playing the Nationals at the JFK, and I was just terrible game. I just feel so bad. And I asked Bill, you think I can skip this interview? And he looked at me. He's like, man, like, I think you shouldn't. I think you and I took his advice. I mean, easy I could say no, I don't want to talk to the media, but I took that advice. It was like hard to me to face the media after failure by failure, and I faced them. And at the end of the season, the writers, they don't have to, but that was to me, it means a lot when someone come to me and say, thank you for facing the media to all these years and through this rough season. That means a lot for me, because I think I act professionally every time. Definitely was not my year, but helped me on my person and my game. So there's so many things during talking about sport, talking about my personal life, that hard to say just one thing.
I love that. Like I said, thank you again it's so funny how things can kind of happen like this. A random thought pops into my head. I tweet it out, and then here we are an hour into a conversation later. So thank you for being so open on here. Thank you for getting back to me on Twitter. And like I said, it's the weird random part of the internet can be good sometimes. I actually do have a request. I feel like we've had a great conversation. Can I get your autograph in any way, shape, or form to put behind me? Can I get with you on that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I still got pictures from my Orioles year, but definitely I'll send you one. But count on that. Count on one of my pictures, and I'll send it to you.
Thank you. I would be honored if you could be in the background of my podcast here. I mean, this has been so much fun, Rodrigo. You are the man. Like I said, you're my favorite player on the Orioles back then. So to talk to you today, it's surreal. So again, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Justin, to having me. And again, it was randomly, but I'm glad that I retweeted you, and hopefully your audience and hopefully the guy in Baltimore, they enjoy it. And hopefully one of these days I can go out there and probably be in a fan fest or something, because I really miss the Orioles family through all these years.